Welcome to the Power of One. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with State Rep Parker. Today, we are going to unpack the importance of having elected officials in our communities and how they can help us. Welcome to the show, State Rep.
Well. All I got to say is thank you, Melanie, and thank you for the power of prayer. Thank you for the power of patience, and thank you for the power of being ready so you don't have to get ready. And thank you to you, Melanie, for who you are, steadfast in this line of work. A lot of times, look at the politicians. They're just between the politician and elected officials, but look at us as being celebrities. I'm here to clear up that myth and let them know that you and your listening audience and your viewing audience, you guys are the celebrities that make us do what we do. And we are literally on your command and demand at times. And sometimes that time would be 7 days a week. Some people think we don't sleep, and that's 24 hours a day. But when you take that, when your hand is on that Bible or Quran, and you take that sworn solemn oath of office to protect and also to provide a service to the public, then this is one of the things that you have to do on a daily basis. That means responding to emails. That means responding to phone calls. That also returning phone calls. And that also means showing up at events in your district. And sometimes, in my case, not in my district and not just in Philadelphia, but it could be Chester County. It could be Lackawanna County. It could be Pittsburgh, Westchester, Reading, Erie, even in Allentown. So, for me, my job as a legislator is a lawmaker, and I'm looking forward to the dialogue that you and I will have.
I see that you were elected in 2020.
Yes,
Tell me, what made you want to run? Did you get up one day and say, okay, I want to be an elected official? And people always say to me, Melanie, you're going to be the next mayor. Melanie, you're going to run. I said, oh, no, I'm not, because they bring up dirt on people who run. And, we all got a little bit of dirt somewhere down the road. But seriously, what made you want to run? Was it something personal that happened? Was it something that you saw someone going through? What made you want to be a state rep?
And I think that's a very valid question. My background, my line of work has always been a community organizer, has always been a person who collectively brings various groups from all walks of life together. I've always been an organizer. I've always been behind the scene. And you're looking at a person who has 30 years of experience in the media, in the communications field. So by you always doing that, I always volunteered my time and my services for public relations, for public outreach, for community engagement for various individuals. And 95% of the time, it was not paid. And that's pretty much how you build your craft, for literally writing talking points and writing various information for individuals, whether it's a community group or whether it's not a political figure, or is an individual who does not know how to speak for the general public. And in that time in my life, things change in the world of the way things are. But I've always had my field, and I've always been involved with the community. And an opportunity came about on State Representative Rosita Youngblood's staff. I had the opportunity to approach her, but way before that opportunity came about, for years I was driving through her district and I would notice things. I would pick up the phone and say, this is going on. I'm just giving you a heads up that I'm about to get in touch with this person, and that person to make sure that they fix this, or to make sure they do this. And I noticed this is going on. So I always just did that line of constituent services without even knowing what that really meant and what that really entailed. I was always involved in my block in the Northwest section of Philadelphia, doing block captains meeting, organizing, town watch, all of these things. We organized to raise funds to make sure that we had security cameras on our block. I had no, and all of this was just what I did. If there was something wrong, I would find out how to get it fixed, and wasn't waiting for anybody elected for any official role or title. And I'll circle back to when that position opened up on Rosita Youngblood's staff. I did ask her, could I come on as a part-time basis because I had a business on the side. And once I called, she immediately called my political director, who is my brother, was like, is your sister serious? Like, is this what she really is ready to do? And he said, absolutely. After some long consideration, she just want to see what it's like working in this realm of politics, to give it a to see if this is something that she could do as a natural. Fast forward, that day came to me attending community meetings, attending RCO meetings. RCOs, for those that may not know, RCOs are registered community organizations that have to do with zoning. It came with writing talking points, pitching stories to make sure that she got coverage on various things that was going on. And when things were coming up in a district that she could not attend, I was attending. That was for 2 years on her behalf. So that literally that was the groundwork for me to be who I am right now, as far as your legislator. And I'm saying it kind of anecdotally, because when people look at this job, a lot of the stuff that they think that we do is easy, because they only see the side of us that we show up at events, or they see sometimes some of us showing up at the press conference, but they don't know all the back stuff that we do behind the scenes. And that's pretty much how that started. And what I always say anecdotally is, individuals who are staffers always make better legislators and always make better politicians, because you got your feet wet first from knowing the constituency that you're going to represent and serve.
So I did read on your website about you being very active with Town Watch, and I saw something that was very interesting, that you had some initiatives that actually helped a young lady who was abducted in Germantown.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was that young lady who was abducted, was it Coulter Street?
Yes.
I remember that.
And before redistricting, that area was my district. Now, because of redistricting, it's Representative Kenzie's district. And again, that was a situation that individuals called me and asked, could I do a press release? And literally, unbeknownst to all of that, that whirlwind spiraled into a national leading story. And to this day, how many years later, that girl was safely returned, unharmed and not abducted. And we were able to make sure that she came back home alive.
Yeah, and I actually worked on that, and our paths probably crossed at that time, but we didn't know who we were, at that time. But doing good work. State Rep, I get confused sometimes, and I'm sure some of my viewers do. Me being in the victim services world, I'm not a talker. I'm a doer, and everybody knows that about me. There has been some major topics that I need to tackle to help victims and co-homicide survivors. There are times when it falls upon deaf ears for some elected officials.
Sure.
Help me to understand how I can make a difference in getting some laws passed that need to be passed with victims and co-homicide survivors. And State Rep, if we're going to be real sometimes, see, some people know some people, and that's how they get stuff done. We're going to have this real conversation. Okay? Let's be real, my sister. All right? So maybe I don't know the right people to get some of these laws passed, because everything does not have to be complicated. It does not take rocket science. I've been in victim services for a very long time, and there are some major needs for our victims and co-homicide survivors. But I often think about that victim that doesn't know somebody, that co-homicide survivor that doesn't know somebody. Do you know they suffer in silence?
Yes.
A lot. So I'm asking, what do I need to do? Do I need to go to Harrisburg Steps and sit out there? But how can I make a difference and help more victims and co-homicide survivors and get some of these laws passed. And there's even some stuff in the city of Philadelphia that needs to be done a little differently for victims and co-homicide survivors.
I think let's unpack it. And I think what happens when we're talking about victims and we're talking about everything you just shared, because it's happening immediately, people want immediate results. And sadly, when it involves Harrisburg, and especially if it involves DC, neither one of those are microwave. Sadly, when we're talking about our legislative body, there's 203 legislators. Well, right now, because we're about to have a special election, there's 202, but a few more weeks, we're about to have 203. And then that's from the House. And then on the Senate side, that's 50. So if you have some information, depending on what it is, there is a process. So let's walk through the process. So you just gave your long title of what you want done. But then you have to then decide, where is this going to go? Are you going to first start off at a press conference? Are you going to have it as a policy hearing? Who is the individual that you actually want to hear this conversation or this theory with to actually gain it to the governors that's for a signature? That's what that law would mean. When you do that, it does sound cumbersome, but let's walk you through it so people understand why it takes so long in Harrisburg. So we may say, for instance, you're going to do a press conference. Okay, fine. And then you may want to do an op-ed. Okay. And then you want to do a policy hearing. Okay. Those three things are all fine, well, and good. And that still hasn't touched the surface of where we need to go for when it becomes a law. Then you have to decide, based on the conversation, where, like, who do you want to have this conversation, i.e. bill? Who do you want it to go to? Which legislator? Then that legislator has to then take it to his or her research team to get all the data, to get the information, and to also see if this bill has already been introduced. Is it lying dormant? Is it in the House or is it the Senate? They have to do their whole research. If it's already exists, we then have to find out, where is it? Is it dormant in the House or is it dormant in the Senate? And then we have to find out who was the co-sponsor of this bill. So once we find all of that out, then that's when the advocacy comes up with all of your partnering groups. So say for instance, you got to lobby, because I just got here. So say for instance, you got to I'll do one of my colleagues. So you got to lobby, he's now Chairman Kinsey. So then your crew would need to lobby Chairman Kinsey and say, hey, this is very important to us. We want you, since you're a chairman, to have this bill come in your committee. And he would then respond, that sounds good, but since this is a law and it's going to be affecting victims, I would recommend that this law may need to go to judiciary. So as a chairman, I'm going to recommend my executive director recommends this bill go to judiciary. Then that's where the other lobbying comes, because we're still in the House. So then after you're doing all of that legwork, and if it's assigned to judiciary, then you have to start your advocacy again for his executive director, the chairman, and his team to then make that decision for that bill to be voted out of that committee. When that is assigned for it to be voted out of that committee, after that takes place, then it becomes before the committee, then they have to vote. So for that situation that I gave you, and trust me, I am not finished. So for that instance right there, prayerfully, we're able to make the decisions because we are the majority party, meaning the Democrats. If we're not, that's a whole different light of welcome. So I'm going to talk into the affirmative. I'm going to talk into the positive, as us being a majority party. So by us being a majority party, for that decision to be made by the chairman, for it then to be voted unanimously out of the committee, it's then going to then more than likely go over to the Senate. If it goes to the Senate Judiciary Committee, one of two things may happen. Say, for instance, it's not assigned to the committee, but it's assigned to that majority leader. You then lobby the Senate's majority leader to make that decision. He will then say, I've assigned it to judiciary. Then you lobby the people for judiciary. And do you do the same exact process? If they call it up for a vote, and it goes through the same thing that happens in the House, if it's unanimously after they do their due diligence, then it comes back to the House for us to make that decision when our leader then makes a decision when that bill is going to come back on the floor, and they have to do their due diligence, because if it's a Democratic sponsored bill, then we got to make sure that we got enough D's and enough R's to make sure that this bill comes out without any pushback so that we can get it to the governor's desk. And that's the snapshot of why things take so long. So it's not a microwave. So with some of the things that I always tell individuals, like bills that I have right now that I'm working on, maybe 3 of them have already been passed in city council, but I want it on a state level. And that's why the bills that I have, one is environmental for outdoor spaces, one is about gun violence as it relates to social media, and another bill is a squatter bill. So all of these bills, again, and I have one that's coming out, which is parental responsibility. All of these bills have come out of city council. So when I take it to that level, I always let that council person know, hey, I'm interested in your bill. Is it okay? And once it gets to that point, prayerfully, I do my magic. I let that council person know when it comes back into the house with a final vote, hey, that bill that you did, blah, 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 why don't you come up here as my guest? And we're going to make sure we get it signed or whatever. So I always try to share with individuals. If you're a Philadelphia resident, to lobby your council persons first for certain bills, if that's what you're saying as relates to victim services. Then, if it does pass unanimously on the city side, then figure out from that part of it, who is your individual contacts from the state, from the Senate and the House, who could sometimes even co-partner on bills so that it can come through and we can make it happen. But I always share, it's a numbers game. 17 in city council, almost 300 in Harrisburg. And I didn't even get to DC.
Wow. So that is a lot. So Now tell me something.
Yes.
What is the importance of having state reps in the community? So if you have community members that are in need of something, why would they reach out to a state rep for help?
I think that's a good question. The reason being is it's a numbers game. So your state representative is your eyes and your ears, and state representatives have less individuals. We are the only elected official that have the lowest amount of individuals that we represent, as far as like an elected office an elected office. I didn't even get to the ward leaders yet. I'm just talking about state reps. Okay. So the max amount of people that a state representative would represent is 65,000 people, compared to some of your city council is like 100 and something thousand. That's a lot of people. To your state senator could be like 200,000. And then you have both of our U.S. senators that represent the entire state. So that's a lot of individuals to deal with. I say to any individual, no question is a dumb question, and it doesn't matter what branch of government. If you come to any elected official, it's our job to give you an answer. And 9 times out of 10, some people don't like the answer that we give them. It's not my time to tell you, oh, that's not my warehouse, call city council. If you call my office and it's a matter of a constituent, our staff is going to get you the solution and going to help you solve your problem. And 9 times out of 10, we also let that council person know, hey, Miss Mary said this is going on her block. I CC'd you in the email because it's a street matter, or it's a L&I matter, or it's a school district matter, so that we're all on the same page, because you all are elected by all of us. And we always start off because of the fact that we're lawmakers. So people are like, well, why is she at community? Because you elected me. I'm going to be any place that I can be in front of my constituency, and I have not changed. This is what I did when I was a staffer, and ever since I was elected, I do not stop going to community meetings and events. Sometimes it's heavier when it's re-election or campaign season. Like this fall, sometimes I'm working 7 days a week because it's political season. Sometimes people have events on Sundays. But trust me, after that November general election, where Parker's going to be back to no Sundays until I start back up next year.
Okay. And I will attest to you are boots on the ground. So when
Yes.
we actually did connect, I
Hmm.
call you, you always answer, and you're always there to help me
Thank you.
because you know I am helping
Mhm.
those in need. So
Absolutely.
I have a very important question. So do you go
Mhm.
to Washington often and interact with the president?
No, I do not. That's interesting that you say that. By me being a lawmaker, we are in Harrisburg, so I do not go to Washington D.C. There has been incidents and there's been events in Philadelphia that President Biden and Vice President Harris come to, and I'm a different kind of person, politician. I am not the type of person that I don't have the time right now, kind of to wait 3 to 4 hours to be screened to go see the president and vice president. I mean, I get it. I get it. Sometimes, you know, if it's an issue or something in particular that I'm working on that I would want the vice president's attention and I would invite her to a round table, then absolutely that's different. But a lot of the rallies, a lot of the things, you're not gonna see Representative Parker. And I'm being very cautious right now of making sure that I do not get sick because COVID has never left.
That's right. That's right. Since you've been in office in 2020, you've seen gun violence change, where it's affecting females now and children, because you know just as well as I know there was a time when
They were off the
females
table.
and children were off limits.
Sure.
What are you doing to help with the gun violence in the city of Philadelphia?
Sure. I'm glad that you said that. One of the things that we're launching again is our series, and now I've added 3 parts to it. The title is called "What Would You Do If the Shooter Lives with You?" Uh,
Mm,
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, because I'm just sharing with everybody. Every approach that we have used for the past 4 years has not worked, and the shooters are living in individuals' houses. That means the people are in your house, and especially if they are minors and you are the parent and the guardian, you should be flipping their mattresses. You should be
that's right.
grabbing their phones on demand, and you should be making sure that their doors are wide open. There are no secrets in your house, and you're
That's
paying
right.
the bills. Another and a part and a segue to that mainframe topic, we're looking to have another attorney moderate the event, partnering with the mental health community, partnering with victim services and victims advocate community, and also making sure that there's either current or retired judges in the room, making sure that we have our religious community in the room, and we'll have some police officers and everybody from this room. And literally, we will section it off. It will be a no social media, no Facebook Live, telling individuals to turn their phones off. Because if there's somebody in this room that has something that they need to say, we will make sure that there's petitioned off with professionals in the room that can help individuals with situations and make it in a safe and comfortable space, and let them say that we're doing things a breakthrough, because we got to do things differently when it comes to this violence. Is it going to be a different approach? Yes. Am I a talking head? No. Am I a do a boots on the ground, a different holistic approach because hurt people? Yes. Another part of this is that I'm rolling out is the actual cost of violence, the economics from a funeral director's perspective.
Mm,
And the last part of it is Philadelphia versus the suburbs. Different zip codes still have violence. How is it being handled and why is it different? Why is
that's right.
there all full throttle manhunt for this man in Westchester, but Pookie and Man Man killed Mercedes last week and they're still unresolved? So we gotta think of things differently as an approach. And I'm, do I have all the answers? No. Do I understand the root cause? A lot of the root cause is a lack of illiteracy, um, poverty, and hurting people in a generation that is being fed wrong things as it relates to the social media dangers of social media. There's a movie called The Social Dilemma that I encourage everybody to watch, and you hear the makers of these platforms that have banned their own children from being
Mm,
involved on these platforms. So I'm taking it to the days, and I can't wait for people to join me. I'm taking it to the days of C. Dolores Tucker, Rest in peace. And does that mean I'm ready to take on the music industry who's on these platforms? Absolutely. So Jay-Z or anybody else, who's saying these raunchy and lyrics, and anybody else that are saying things that's misogynistic or degrading to women and having them dressed naked to these award shows and other, we are coming for you. Because what's happening is people are using their freedom of speech and saying that every time I put out legislation that I'm attacking their freedom of speech. Well, guess what? When you put your middle finger up in the air, when you have yellow tape that keeps spilling in the streets of Philadelphia along with blood, when our babies can't even ride their bike, when little girls can't be little girls, when little girls can't even play jump rope or freeze tag or football frisbee, then guess what? We got to talk something differently. So when you're talking about my legislation, you're also talking to a woman who has met with the NRA. You're talking to a woman who has met with the FOP. You're talking to a woman who has met with the Second Right Amendment. And these are the people who I'm actually dependent upon to look at my legislation, to say what is working, what is not working, and what would the other people on the other side of the aisle agree to, so that these laws can get passed. And guess what? You and I both know I'm not playing no games. And guess what? Even with laws passed, that's not going to stop the fundamental things. We got a disconnect of our babies and children in these homes. And things aren't happening with parental accountability in these homes. And we got to go back to teaching parents how to be parents. That means everybody on a block, whether you're a renter or a homeowner, if you live in a dwelling, you live on a block, you're a neighbor. So that means each person on that block should know each other first and last name and telephone number. So if you want to change the culture, you have to be involved. Because if I'm the first person to commit to report a crime, that's the problem. It should be the block leader. It should be the committee person. It should be the neighbors, all of these people making sure that the ward leaders know. Then if they're organized on that tier level, then if the police do not respond, then you call your elected official. But those tiers in conjunction with town watch should be used first. And if we do it that way, then things will change.
There you have it. Uncut and uncensored. It is time for us to take our streets back. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we had that real conversation, and we were not worried about who was offended because it was real talk. It is time for us to take our streets back. Peace and love.